The first time she asked if she looked good in that dress, the entire glass-walled office floor seemed to pause with me. Sunlight poured in through the windows of the 42nd floor, turning the city below into a soft blur, but my eyes were fixed on her. Not because I was her CEO. Not because she was my employee. But because in that quiet second, I realized I couldn't look away. Not from the dress, not from the woman wearing it, and not from the feeling I had spent months trying to bury under spreadsheets, meetings, and rules. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories where hearts find their way despite the odds, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who loves emotional stories, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. My name is Armand Vohra, founder and CEO of Vohra Dynamics, a tech firm built on long days, relentless ambition, and the quiet sacrifices no one sees. I built this company from a rented office and sleepless nights, but success has a strange way of hollowing you out if you're not careful. By the time the company reached national recognition, my days were full and my life was empty. Every morning began with sunlight bouncing off glass towers and ended with city lights reflecting off my office window while I stayed late, pretending I preferred solitude over disappointment. She joined the company on a bright Monday morning, the kind of day that makes everything feel possible. Her name was Mare Qureshi. She wasn't loud or attention-seeking. She didn't walk in like she owned the room. She carried herself with a quiet confidence, eyes observant, posture calm, like someone who had learned early how to stand steady even when life pushed back. She was hired as a junior strategy analyst, fresh talent with sharp instincts and a resume that didn't scream privilege, but resilience. At first, she was just another name on my calendar, another face in the conference room. But it didn't take long for her presence to change the rhythm of my days. She stayed late not to impress, but to finish what she started. She listened more than she spoke, and when she did speak, it was thoughtful, precise, and honest. There was a sincerity in her work that reminded me why I started this company in the first place, before ambition became armor. The office during the day had its own personality. Sunlight spilled over desks, keyboards clicked like rain, and conversations hummed with urgency and hope. Mare blended into this world effortlessly, yet somehow stood apart. I began noticing small things, the way she smiled when an idea finally made sense, the crease in her brow when she was focused, the calm determination that never felt forced. I told myself it was admiration for talent. Nothing more. But feelings don't ask for permission. The challenge wasn't just that I was her CEO. It was that the world we worked in thrived on boundaries, power dynamics, and unspoken rules. I had seen careers crumble because of rumors, reputations destroyed by whispers. I had promised myself long ago that I would never cross that line. Professional distance was my shield, and I wore it well. Mare, unknowingly, tested that shield every day. We worked closely on a major client pitch that could define the company's future. Long daytime meetings stretched into afternoons filled with brainstorming, whiteboards crowded with ideas, and coffee cups abandoned mid-thought. The more time we spent working together, the more I saw beyond her role. She carried responsibility like a second skin, not because she had to, but because she cared. She spoke about her family once, briefly, mentioning sacrifices made quietly, dreams postponed for stability. There was no self-pity in her words, only gratitude and resolve. I recognized that kind of strength. It mirrored my own past more than I liked to admit. As the pitch day approached, tension filled the office. Everyone moved faster, spoke sharper, worked harder. That morning, the city was alive with daylight, traffic humming below, the sky clear and unforgiving. Mare walked into the office wearing a dress that caught the light in a way that felt symbolic, like a moment of courage woven into fabric. It wasn't extravagant. It was professional, elegant, and confident. She had chosen it for herself, not for approval. Yet she paused near my office, uncertainty flickering briefly across her face. She asked if she looked good in it, not as an employee seeking validation from a superior, but as a human being seeking reassurance in a moment that mattered. I responded honestly, without thinking, without hiding. I admitted, in my own quiet way, that I couldn't look away. The words weren't flirtation. They were truth. And truth has consequences. From that moment, everything changed. I pulled back, afraid of what honesty might unravel. I became more formal, more distant, burying myself in work and policies. Mare noticed, of course. Anyone would. Confusion replaced ease, and the unspoken tension grew heavier with each passing day. I hated myself for it, for creating a space where warmth once lived and replacing it with cold professionalism. She didn't confront me. She didn't accuse or complain. Instead, she focused on her work, pushing herself harder, proving her value in ways that felt unnecessary and unfair. Watching her struggle silently was worse than any confrontation could have been. The pitch was a success. Applause filled the conference room, hands shook, smiles exchanged. The company celebrated during daylight hours with laughter echoing through open spaces, sunlight catching on glass walls and polished floors. Mare stood among her colleagues, smiling, yet there was a distance in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Success should have felt triumphant. Instead, it felt hollow. The real challenge wasn't the company, or the rules, or public perception. It was fear. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of damaging something pure with something complicated. Fear that I had already hurt her by choosing silence over honesty. Days passed. Then weeks. The office returned to its normal rhythm, but something essential was missing. I realized that leadership wasn't just about protecting the company, it was about integrity in every form, including emotional integrity. Avoidance wasn't professionalism. It was cowardice. Change came on an ordinary afternoon, sunlight pouring through the windows, casting long shadows across the floor. I watched Mare present an idea with clarity and confidence, owning the room not because of her title, but because of her conviction. In that moment, I understood that she deserved more than my fear. She deserved respect, honesty, and the chance to choose for herself. I requested a meeting, formal and transparent, with HR present later, not as a spectacle, but as accountability. I acknowledged my feelings without drama, without pressure. I made it clear that her career, her comfort, and her choices mattered more than my emotions. I offered space, time, and the option to say no without consequences. What followed wasn't a dramatic confession or instant romance. It was conversation, reflection, and careful steps forward. Mare chose to transfer to a different department under a separate leadership structure, not because she was forced, but because she valued her independence and professional identity. That decision alone told me everything about the kind of woman she was. Our connection, freed from imbalance, grew slowly and intentionally. Daytime coffee. Meetings in open cafes replaced late-night office tension. Walks under the sun replaced hidden glances behind glass walls. We talked about fears, expectations, and the weight of choices. There were moments of doubt, moments where the past threatened to overshadow the present, but there was also laughter, warmth, and a shared understanding that some things are worth navigating carefully. The world didn't collapse. The company didn't suffer. In fact, transparency strengthened trust. Employees saw leadership modeled with accountability and respect, not secrecy. Mare flourished in her new role, her confidence no longer restrained by uncertainty. Watching her succeed, independently, was more fulfilling than any deal I had ever closed. Love, I learned, doesn't arrive to disrupt your life. It arrives to ask if you're brave enough to live it honestly. Near the end of that year, during a company-wide daytime event celebrating growth and community, Mare stood beside me, not as an employee, not as a secret, but as a partner acknowledged with dignity. The city shimmered outside, sunlight bathing the room in warmth. I looked at her and remembered that first question about the dress, the moment everything began. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love rooted in respect can survive even the hardest boundaries, please take a second now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories that speak to the soul. And before this story ends, I have one special request for you. Comment below with one word that represents what this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. As the afternoon light faded into a softer glow, I realized that the most powerful stories aren't about grand gestures or forbidden passion. They are about choosing integrity over fear, kindness over silence, and courage over convenience. Some days, love doesn't ask if it's appropriate or easy. Sometimes, it simply asks if you can look away, or if you're finally ready not to.